Welcome to Paris Undressed on Paris Underground Radio. I'm your host, Kate Kim Griffin, and every week we go behind the scenes of the lingerie capital of the world to explore femininity and sensuality. My guest today is Laure Stromboni, the creative talent behind the handmade lingerie label, Lorette Lingerie. Born and raised in France, Laure studied art and design before moving to London to continue her studies, only to be told that her English didn't meet admission requirements. Instead of packing her bags and leaving, Laure stayed in London and worked in graphic design, studied and practiced her English, and met her future husband. Together they moved to Canada, and when Laure couldn't find any lingerie that appealed to her senses, she created Lorette Lingerie, crafting handmade pieces that align the body, mind, and heart. For Laure, lingerie is about emotion, and her signature embroideries are imbued with symbols to inspire women to interpret and define, or redefine, their own expression of femininity and sensuality. Welcome to Paris Undressed, podcast on Paris Underground Radio. Today, my guest is Laure Stromboni. I'm very delighted that you could join us today.
I'm very glad I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Laure, tell us a little bit about your story. Where did it start in France for you?
Oh, so I was born in France, and I studied art and design in a school in Reims, in the Champagne area. I actually studied product design first, so that was very interesting because I didn't really know what specifically I wanted to do in an art field, but I was very curious to try a little bit of everything. So I studied product design after I have another degree in graphic design, and then I moved to London and I work as a freelancer designer for various artists and other studios.
And why London? London, England, I assume.
Yes, London, because I was actually accepted in St. Martin's School for my master degree, but I was 21 at the time, and I actually couldn't enroll into the school because my English test, let's say, failed the requirement, or some change of administration happens, and I was bumped into the year after. So that was quite the news to receive when you have your whole life plan and you think you're going to do something, but in fact everything changes. But I stayed in London. I continued being around the student in the university, and I actually decided to keep working and build my portfolio. And I had so many great experiences that every day now I'm still thankful, and I'm still using them as part of my experience.
So you went to London to be a design student, and then you didn't get in, but you stayed anyway.
Yes.
Oh, tell us a little bit more about that. What did you do during that year?
I worked my first job was for actually a fashion designer. I had no experience in fashion, but I knew how to draw very well. So I was hired to draw the collection among some other fashion students. And I think because I'm from Paris, I had a little bit of an advantage for him in his eyes. It was like, oh, Paris, you know Chanel and Dior, and I didn't really, but I knew how to draw, so I knew how to make it happen. And after I worked as an art director for another small street style brand, and I was doing all the graphic design for his t-shirts and collection and his identity and his release. Everything was very fun. It was a very small team. And then my other job, I worked for a product designer. It was actually two designers. They were making furnitures for a big exhibition in the Milan furniture show.
Furniture, like sofas and chairs and armoires. Yeah. Okay. And so is that what product design is?
Yes.
Okay. Any kind of product?
Any product that you want. My school was very dedicated to more teaching us the approach, how to come up with a concept from start to finish. How you are, what does it mean? The shape, the colors. What are the ideas behind it that are the consumer is gonna feel attracted to, and consciously almost is gonna resonate with him. He doesn't know it's gonna why necessarily, but there's a whole process, and this is really what I learned in school. After we can specialize in more industrial, so more of like knowing how to build it, how to manufacture it and everything. But that was something, another part of the program that I didn't do.
So there was function and an aesthetic that you had to combine. When you talk about knowing how to draw, when did you start drawing?
Oh, I was very young. I think as young as I can remember. I think when I was a baby, I was even drawing under the coffee table of my parents or on the lampshade, or everywhere I could, I was drawing.
Do you remember what you liked to draw the most?
When I was younger, I really liked to draw landscape because I lived in a beautiful area in France, in Rambouillet near Versailles.
So you moved from Reims to Rambouillet, or you started in Rambouillet?
I started in Rambouillet, and then I went to Reims for the school.
So you grew up in the banlieue parisienne?
Yeah.
In the big, beautiful forest near you?
Yes, exactly.
And with lots of landscapes and trees and nature.
In a beautiful forest, yeah. So when I was taking painting classes, and when I was very young, and our teacher would take us around, and we would draw whatever we wanted that was around us.
And was that something that was encouraged in your family to draw and to imagine and to dream?
Yes, absolutely. I have an amazing chance that my parents always let me do all sorts of things like this. They always kept me very free to explore the creativity.
And as a young teenager, growing into your body and becoming a young woman, what was your relationship to fashion and to your body?
As a teenager, I would say difficult. I mean, I think most teenagers have a difficult time understanding really what's happening. I developed really early. And so it was not easy neither, because the way young boys just like to mock young girls are developing. Even I don't know why, but that's just unfortunately the culture. So there was a phase of my life where definitely I was hiding that I was developing. I was wearing big sweatshirts, and I was more boyish, and I was trying to understand what was happening and how I felt about it. But I have an amazing mother that I always confess everything, so I could talk very freely about all of these things with her. And our connection really is everything. So it really helped me. I think herself was going through the look of men on her, because she's a beautiful woman. And in France, sometimes men from older generation can tend to be very macho. So I think we supported each other through that, and yes, it started for me when I was a teenager, but it's still like a process, I think women are still figuring out how to interact around men and feel comfortable most of the time. It's difficult.
It's very difficult. And as you're growing and your body was changing, your breasts developed, obviously. Tell us about your first bra.
My first bra. I remember my first bra. I went to Galeries Lafayette with my mother in Paris, because it was the place where we had the most choices with all the brands. And I remember that it was like a simple cotton bralette, pastel green and white stripe, very, very simple, not too feminine, not too just, because I was young. I was 12 or 13 maybe when I first got my first bralette. Yeah, it was great. And again, my mother was very supportive, very calm, and she was helping me figure out what was my style, how I felt, in my femininity that was developing.
Do you remember it as a proud moment, an unsure moment, or how would you describe your feelings if you remember when you were buying your first bra?
I think unsure, not proud. No, because I think, again, of me figuring out, okay, I'm comfortable with this, but sometimes I feel like the world around me is just looking at my breast all the time, and it's, yeah. So that's why I was wearing those big sweatshirt, but I had something good that made me feel good, like a simple little cotton bralette that made me feel good and supportive. And it's nothing crazy. I was just like, I was measuring maybe like my first bra was 85B, nothing crazy, but it's just how you feel. And maybe it was also exaggerated in my head because I was intimidated by the look. I was figuring out what was going on in my body. So, but that's the memory I have is I had this cute little comfy bralette underneath and my big sweatshirt to just hide it and just keep it for myself.
And already you sense this idea of something that could be kept just for you and made you feel better about yourself, even if nobody else could see it.
Yeah.
Well, listening to you speak English, it's really hard to believe that you didn't get into Saint Martin's school. But lucky for us, and as you say, things do work out for the best. What happened during that year of London that somehow transported you to now you're in North America?
Well, I met my wonderful husband. He's American, and so that was during my first year of my stay in London. It's funny how life works. I was so sure that I was going to do a master, and that was my path. And in fact, it was not. And when I met my husband, I was like, okay, that's why I'm here. I understand now.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that one's path can change from what one preconception. What inspired you to start a lingerie brand?
So it's when I moved actually from London to Canada. I started working in advertising in Vancouver. I remember because I couldn't find any lingerie that was that I felt comfortable with. I found that the North American market was very different from what I was used to in Europe. So I was still buying my same French lingerie. I was getting my mother to ship it to me in Vancouver, and I really was trying to find like a middle ground of where I was from and where I was in my new life in Canada. So that took a few years. I was doing this. I was working in advertising, and then I quit my job in advertising, and this idea of me still not finding lingerie that was resonating with how I'm seeing femininity and sensuality. Then the idea started maturing in my head, and I was like, maybe I should create what I envision. I should create what I would like to wear.
Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. And so what were the first steps? Did you come up with the name? Did you just decide you want to be your own boss? How did the idea become a reality?
I think so. After quitting my job in a more corporate world, I felt very free, and I had time to think about really what I wanted to do. And it was also, I'm much more comfortable in a setting where I can do my own thing, where I can create on my own term, like I was doing in London, where I was working for the different studios, but I was giving them something that it was a true collaboration. And so that's what I like to do. I like to think of concept. I like to think of how I'm going to make them happen, and how I'm going to brand them, market them, and everything. So the first step was to get this concept. And I remember it clicked because one of my very good friends in Vancouver and in Toronto, Carmen, she's a wonderful illustrator, and she has the most amazing tattoos. And she was doing this project where she was drawing one tattoo a day for 100 days. And I love her tattoos so much that I started just envisioning them embroidered on lingerie, because there was something so intimate about the tattoo, something that was on your skin, but it's like you're wearing something. So you're not naked, but it's different. And so I was like, oh, it's very close to the concept of lingerie. My first idea was, okay, well, I'm gonna take some of these drawings and apply them, turn them into embroidery, and make them look like women are wearing delicate tattoos. And that was my very first set, my very first concept. And she was the one that drew the first illustration. I remember it was a hand with a flower, rose flower on each cup. And then a bird with two hands shaking, like a love peace agreement. In my work, I always liked when symbols, object colors, like I was saying, like I learned in school, have a meaning or can be subject to your own interpretation. And that's what I care about. It's like I'm not imposing something, or you should be like this. You should be sexy. You should be more feminine. You should be more romantic. No, I'm not. It's more about how you want to define it, and how, according to you, to your story, and how you feel and your own relationship to your body. So that's something I always applied in all of my work. And now I started to apply it in the lingerie that I was creating. What if it was creating different sets, different design that was letting women choose what they want to wear according to how they feel. And that's how the concept started. And plus, I often found that in the lingerie world, designers don't tend to explore as much compared to the fashion world, because in the fashion world, you can create anything. And in the lingerie world, there's the functionality. It has to have a strong support. There's so much technicality that goes into making lingerie that it's very important. And a lot of designers really focus on that, especially when they start having a really wide range of sizes, of style. And it's a very complicated product to make. So I was like, how can I combine creativity and a different approach with still having that functionality, that support, and having something that is well constructed. So that was quite a challenge, actually.
I'm wondering, while you're talking about all of this, I'm wondering how those tattoo graphic designs actually got onto the fabric. Do you know how to sew? How did you know how to put together a bra?
No, I didn't know how to sew. So I took classes. I took, I would say, a year and a half to really learn first, before launching anything, to really learn how it was constructed, the different material, the different step. Because also it's just the idea, if I was going to start this brand, this new project, was for me to learn about the process and to know every step of the process. Because again, this is what I'm passionate about. This is where my education comes from. And I didn't want it to create another item just for the sake of having another item in the market. And no, it was like a more of a process of design and what it requires. So I took classes. I learned through someone very, very talented and passionate of lingerie in Toronto, and it was so great. She introduced me to so many brands and designers, and it was really wonderful. Then the tattoo was my friend that was designing the tattoo. I took her drawing and I was like, how can I applique those onto the design? So I had to find embroiderers in Toronto, but it's not something that people do very much in Toronto or in Europe. Like, you can find a lot of embroiderers specialized for lingerie. There's a lot of great companies out there, but I didn't know all of this, and I was still at the very, very beginning of the creation. So I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to learn and see what was required to make an embroidery. So I found a mother-daughter duo from India, and they know exactly how to embroider on delicate fabric because of the traditional wedding outfit. And for example, a wedding veil would have really delicate embroidery. And so they knew how to embroider on some silk and satin and beautiful, even stretchy fabric. They're so talented. And so I was so fortunate to find them and started working with them, when in the meantime, everybody else in Canada was like, no, you can't do this. This is an impossible idea. You'll never make it. It's too costly. It was too crazy. The fabrics were too delicate. It was ripping in the machine. So, but these two women are so talented that I've been working with them since the beginning.
Explain a little bit the process, because all of your pieces are handmade. It's not a factory-produced lingerie collection. Describe your process of designing your collection.
Once I developed my first pattern, and I'm still working on the pattern. Like, patterns is something, it's constantly evolving, and with the feedback of the client. And I think that I really enjoy that. So when I had my first couple of patterns ready. Then I had my embroidery ready. I had to find the fabric. And again, I wanted to keep it local as much as possible. I wanted to feel everything. I wanted to be able to see everything, to test. And it requires a lot of testing, especially for lingerie. So I had the amazing chance to work with Lida Badet, a famous Canadian designer. I started with her working with the end of roll that she was selling to designers, because Lida Badet was using beautiful mills in France, in Italy, in Austria to create her fabric in the 90s. And she had a really, really big production. So she still has a lot of fabric left over. And instead of creating new material, it turned out it was the best solution for me to test with all of her beautiful fabric. And then after, I just couldn't find anything better, really, because the quality of her European fabric was really stunning. And so I started with mesh. I found this beautiful Italian mesh, very soft, very delicate, and I experimented with her. So once I had all this base going, then I could really start and plan collections and see how I was going to release them. So I had my fabric, I had my pattern, I had my embroidery, everything was good to go. Now it was like, okay, what am I going to say? What do I want to create? What are the messages I want to give to people? My first collection was mystical, and mystical, it was something maybe that I needed myself, where it came from the idea of how to get in tune with your intuitive side of yourself, how to get in tune with your feminine side. So it was a lot of moon and eclipse embroidery inspired. And so every time, I don't really follow season. I don't follow the fashion calendar or trends or anything like this. It's really about what is the story that I want to tell. And so I really plan my collection according to this. And when the inspiration strike, obviously, but really it's like, what is the next thing I want to tell? And that's where all of them come from. And also, like, most of the time when I source my fabric, now I go to a few other places, when I go home to Paris, the fabric itself will inspire the collection. So that's how it gets all built up.
What's an example of a mistake that happened, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, I have many. I think they are part of it. A mistake, I mean, for me would be more logistic mistake. I think it's hard. I would say it's hard to say a mistake, because they're so part of it that at the end they don't end up being mistake. It's just part of the process. I've been very careful, because it's just really me in the business with all those wonderful women I work with, but I'm really the only one managing everything. So the mistakes I make are part of me, and then I go along and I change them. So I don't necessarily have like one particular mistake. It's just like, I think I would say just a way to adapt. Yeah, maybe I would want to order the wrong color of elastic, and I have like 2,000 meters, and we don't need a lot of elastic for making a bra and a panty. So but then I can adapt, and then I will do a collection with this new color, and nobody will know, and nothing will be wasted, and it's totally fine.
Or if anybody's listening and they have been waiting to know where to get 2,000 meters of elastic, now we know who to call.
Exactly.
Laure, who are 3 people who have been most influential to you?
I want to say, well, for sure, my grandmother. My grandmother, Odile, from my mother's side, she passed when I was very young, but somehow she still has the most impact in my life, because she was an example for so many women in my family and men. Everyone respected her so much, and she had simply the best taste in fashion. She was making all my moms and my aunt, my grand aunt and the cousins, like beautiful dresses, and she had an interior design store, and she was also had a lot of fabrics and a lot of different finish and everything. So it was always a real pleasure to look through her collections of fabric, to look through the clothes. She was only buying made in France or made in Italy clothes and shoes. You know, it was very important for her. I mean, at the time also, that's what you could find. And so I cherish all of the items. Like, they're still my most precious things is the little silk blouse that she had, the accessories that she had. So it is still an influence in my life because I use them often as reference when I draw something or when I see a fabric similar to something she had. Next to that, I mean, it's really the people that are close in my life, you know. So next to that, I would say it's my mother for her constant support of everything that I've done. Every path that I've taken and every places that I've been, she's always been behind me and behind my choices. And that's an amazing chance. So the third person, I would say my first mentor when I arrived in Vancouver. He got me my first job in advertising, but he really wanted me to be able to express myself as much as possible outside of traditional advertising content, and I think that gave me that sense of freedom that I really cherish, and I'm very grateful for.
And you can feel the presence of these influences in your design and the way you create.
Absolutely.
What differences have you noticed in the way women shop for lingerie in France and in North America?
Well, like I was mentioning before, I started creating my own in Canada because I couldn't find something that was in between the two worlds of lingerie that we often described in North America, meaning we have a very comfortable, plain, not to be seen underwear drawer. And then we have in North America, more adventurous, let's say sexy, more occasional lingerie that you wear for your partner, special occasion. In France, or at least the way I grew up, really was like having beautiful lingerie for everyday wear. It's basics. It's like your essential. It's part of your life. It's like you choose your lingerie the same way you're going to choose your outfit of the day, according to how you feel, according to how your body feels. So really, that's the main difference I found, and that's why I started it, because I couldn't find nice lingerie that I just could wear every day just for myself. And I found that, in North America, women often just tend to, because they've been told for many years that sexy lingerie needs to be almost a bit uncomfortable, it needs to be complicated, has a lot of straps and a lot of details. You don't really know how to wear it. In France, like a beautiful lace bra, if you can wear it all day long and you wear it the next day, it's totally fine and it's great.
So you talk about sensuality as being a defining word and concept and part of lingerie. What does sensuality mean to you?
Sensuality for me is being in tune with your body. I think it's just being so aligned with your body that, like, really you just do that for yourself. You wake up in the morning and you take care of your body, you take care of your mind. So it's just being aligned with all these aspects of yourself. And so that's what sensuality, because you're gonna go about your day and you're gonna feel fully yourself. And nothing is going to distract you from that. And I think that for me is central, because it is you. It is you at a vulnerable place. It is you at a strong place. But all of this different aspect makes you a central person.
Lovely. Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. Has making lingerie changed how you wear lingerie?
No, it only reinforces the way I've been wearing it. Meaning every day, I wear a lot of Lorette, obviously, and it's just every day. It's like according to how I feel. I love to to put on a nice set. And even if they don't necessarily need to match all the time, it's totally fine, but it only reinforces the importance of it.
And you just mentioned that it doesn't have to match. So there's this word, dépareillé, and you are just the perfect person to talk to us about dépareillé. Please explain what this means and how you feel about it.
Yeah, dépareillé is basically when your bra, your top doesn't necessarily match the bottom that you're wearing. But again, if you have something nice, it kind of almost doesn't matter, you know? Like you have a nice bra, it could be white, and you have a bottom that could be black. But if they are made of nice fabric with nice little details, such as little jewelry, clasp, or rings, or, you know, it's a nice fabric, a nice shape that is flattering for you, I think that's all that matters. And you feel good in it, then that's really all that matters. Sometimes also when I think about the outfit I'm going to wear, if I have a dress that has a different cut, a different color, then I need to have a different top than my bottom in order to make the outfit work together. I like to do that. It doesn't really bother me.
Okay, so dépareillé, though, if I understand, there's a choice. There's a thought process that goes with the choice of the top and the bottom, even if it doesn't match. Or can it just be completely random?
Oh, that's interesting. For me, it's completely random. I think most French women really don't think too much.
You just pull out a bra, you pull out your bottom, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, unless it's really two things that really don't look together. And when you look at yourself, you're like, that's not really flattering, or it doesn't really look good on my skin. But it's mostly like, yeah, it's like, what am I going to wear today? Oh, this bra looks great with this top, and I'm going to pick a bottom that makes me look great with this skirt. And, does it work with the bra? Yeah, it kind of works. That's fine.
And off to the day.
Yeah, exactly.
What does the lingerie drawer of a lingerie designer look like?
Well, it's a really big drawer. That's for sure. With all my pieces and all the ones that I've been collecting throughout the years, and the ones that I found, like when I found some vintage one from La Perla, from Undressed, you know, I really like to also collect them and see how they were constructed and the difference between what we do now and how things were made before, the different stitches and everything. Like, I really like that. So it's a really big drawer, yes, for sure. But I like to organize them by color.
And is there a lot of color in your drawer? Do you like wearing a lot of color?
Yeah, I do, actually. I do. I'd not say wear a lot of colors every day on the outside in my clothing, but in my lingerie, I don't mind.
Is it tidy? Is it a bit sort of...
Yeah, it's tidy. It has to be tidy.
It's tidy.
Oh, yeah. Everything has to be folded. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And do you hand wash your lingerie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have like the little basic cotton underwear, like everybody, that I don't mind throwing in the washing machine. But as soon as it has a more delicate fabric or lace, or I hand wash everything, and it lasts for a long time. Bras can last very long time if they're well made, well constructed, nice fabric, and you hand wash them. It's really great product.
What advice would you give women who feel overwhelmed about shopping for lingerie?
Well, I would say first to go back to themselves. And by that, I mean, again, use their inner eye almost, and look at themselves, look at their body, and understand how their body works, and be in tune with your body. That's the most important thing, really, to me, because you wear your lingerie for yourself first. Everything, it's for yourself. You're the one wearing it every day, and it needs to feel good around your body. So you have to understand your body. You have to understand what makes you feel good, what makes you feel yourself, and not compare yourself as the worst thing that we can do to, we all do it, I know. It's just very, very difficult, especially in a world where social media has so much place in our life, and it's not always healthy, and we're constantly comparing ourselves. But if we can try to take a moment in the morning to not look at anything, not be influenced by anything, just breathe, just go inside you by looking at your body, understanding how you feel. Do I feel more heavy today because just the weather, or do I feel stressed today? Do I feel very light and happy today? Am I in love? Am I upset? Am I angry? Or whatever it is, understand that. And then analyze what makes you feel good. What shape makes you feel good? What usually you like to wear? Do you like to wear a lot of dresses? Do you like to wear more blouses? Do you like to... So really seeing, almost like creating a mood board in your head of of yourself, like the same as the creative process, that when I pick up all the colors, the fabric, I picture all this. So if you're creating a mood board of you, what do I like? What's my lifestyle? What do I like to do? And so how can I make my lingerie fit that, and not the other way around, not make myself fit into a lingerie that I think I should be wearing, or that I feel, or my surrounding, my partner, whoever is telling me I should be wearing this. No, if it doesn't work for you, it's fine. We should never feel constricted to wear something we're not comfortable with. We should feel free, and really it starts with your first layers. It's the most important. So I would say just concentrate on you first.
That is such an important reminder and an invitation to really ask the simple question, do I like it? I hear a lot from women who just say, well, it's comfortable and it's this or it's that. But the idea that they like it doesn't necessarily feel as if they're allowed to like it. It's not a question that is understood to even be relevant, but it's the most important question.
Yes.
Do I like it? Doesn't matter if it's beautiful by somebody else's standards or expensive because somebody said it was expensive. It's, do you like it? And from what you're saying, it seems so essential just to take the time to discover what you like about your lingerie and yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Like, for example, there's some of my clients, they only buy bodysuits because they love the bodysuit. It makes them feel great. It's very slim, contouring, fit contouring. So they feel very hold together, and they can wear dresses that are more flowy, but they feel like their body is nicely hold together and tight, and they love it. Some women prefer to have a bra that is very light, like almost they're wearing nothing, because they don't like to feel constricted in their lingerie. So, and again, it's the same thing that goes with the comfort. Something can be super, super comfortable, but if it's not flattering, and if you don't want to look at yourself in a mirror, if it's only for functionality, I say maybe it's not the best, because at the end of the day, you'll not feel good, and it's the energy that you're going to give to people, and that is very important.
And an energy you're going to give to yourself. Too. Absolutely. When you're not making beautiful lingerie, what do you like to do?
Well, I really like to draw still. Well, not necessarily lingerie, but this is still my first passion since I was born, really. So I still like to draw a lot. I like to meditate. I like to go into nature a lot to be inspired and to feel at peace, at calm. This thing.
And what do you miss most about France?
Outside of my family, I would say the food.
What's the first thing you buy as soon as you get off the plane and into the first boulangerie of your choice? What's that first purchase?
Un chausson aux pommes. That's my favorite. So chausson aux pommes is apple. How do you say it? I don't know the translation.
A chausson pomme is an apple. It's in a pâte feuilletée, so it's in a fluffy pastry, and it's often warm if you get to the boulangerie at the right time.
Yes, exactly.
But a chausson pomme, a chausson is a slipper. Does it translate as that? An apple slipper? I mean, the way that you sort of, the apple's in the...
Yeah, exactly. In the pastry, inside the pastry. Oh, when it's so warm, it's so delicious. But otherwise, like a perfect baguette, that's my go-to. Like a perfect baguette, warm, because we can't find anything like this in North America. It's just not the same. So, yeah.
It's a gift. I think it's one of the reasons many of us have moved to Paris and can never leave.
Yeah, I know.
Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. What's your favorite flower arrangement?
That's a great question. I really like wildflower, like wild carrot flower. I don't really know all the names of the flowers, but something that felt very natural. So yeah, almost like if you were just hand picking it, in the countryside, and you made yourself your own bouquet. That's what I prefer.
And do you notice any of those colors of your flowers in your lingerie choices? Does the palette of the color of nature find its way into the color palette of your lingerie collection?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, because I work with a lot of also in the embroidery in the collection. There's a lot of natural elements. So one of my latest collection was entitled Olympia, is has the symbol of the sacred olive branch and sacred wealth. It's a really hard word to say in English. Couronne de laurier. So these are inspired by nature, and I tend to follow the natural color palette because there's everything in nature already. We don't need to invent anything. Everything can be found out there, and the colors works perfectly together, and it's always amazing to notice that. So yes, absolutely.
And what are you curious about right now?
What I'm curious about? That's a great question. In a more of a global sense, I'm more curious to know how this world of fashion is going to evolve. I'm really curious to see how designers are going to find new ways to go back to creativity first. That's I want to see that more. I'm always looking for smaller artists, designers, and brands to find new ways to talk about their vision, their approaches of the world, and in a very artistic way, and not so much for profit and growth. And I think I'm a little tired myself to live in in a world where everything is defined by numbers, where we don't really give a lot of opportunity to the people that have truly a different vision of the world and want to bring something new to their surrounding, to their community. I want to see more of that. So I'm always curious in seeking this kind of opportunity, this kind of people.
What can we look forward to in your upcoming collections in the future?
In the future? Well, definitely more embroidery with more symbols. I really, really enjoy telling stories, like I was saying to you earlier, just telling stories, different approaches. I'm always very inspired by also my customers, and when I get to chat with them and understanding their relationship to their body, it inspired me to create new things. Like this collection, Olympia, was all about the symbolism of strength, of courage, and it came out in 2020, and I think it couldn't have been more of a perfect timing, because I think it was a time where a lot of people needed that courage to face the events, that courage to whatever is going on in their life. And so a lot of women, I felt that, and when they're wearing it, they feel more of a warrior. They feel like they can accomplish their day. So that's something you can be sure to see me doing more continuing, because also I found that Lorette is very unique on the market for that, because it is telling a different story about lingerie and our relationship to our bodies through the different symbols, the different colors that I'm using. So definitely keeping exploring this.
Well, we're very much going to be looking forward to seeing what your collections bring. And thank you so much for joining us today, Laure.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Laure, for joining us today. To see Laure's art-inspired collection, visit her website, lorettelingerie.com, or on Instagram at Lorette Lingerie. You can also find the links on our episode page. And thank you, merci, for listening to Paris Undressed. Paris Undressed is produced by Paris Underground Radio. For more on this show and shows like it, please go to parisundergroundradio.com.